I'm Monica Herrera with Four Oaks Road, where my company helps seniors and their families deal with selling the home as well as all of the belongings within the home. I'm very honored to have our guest speaker, Anna Felix, here this afternoon. Anna experienced an unexpected life-altering change after becoming a widow in 2010. She has made it her goal to educate and empower others to take steps to insulate themselves from financial distress. She shares strategies for managing financial accounts, investments, insurance, beneficiaries, etc. So you can make financial and savvy decisions even in a stressful time. Hi, Anna. Welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Hi, thank you for having me, Monica. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So why don't you just tell me a little bit of what, you know, keeps you motivated and keeps you moving and what you're doing and, ultimately what helped you make that decision that this is the direction and the trajectory of your life?
Yeah, so it's interesting how these things happen and how our life leads us down the path that we need to take. I, as you mentioned, became a widow at 42 and just didn't feel like I had all of the information that I needed to make the decisions that were coming ahead of me. And so I thought, well, I'll meet with someone that can, teach me the things I need to learn, and then I'll be equipped and I'll be able to make these decisions. Well, what I found, Monica, as I met with people was that, number one, they really didn't care. They didn't seem to have that true compassion for my situation or the true desire to really help. But more importantly, when I asked questions, it was like that was not okay. And I would literally have them say, you don't need to understand this stuff. You just, I'll handle it. And I felt like I did need to understand it. It was my money, and I felt like I did. And in a lot of ways, I was kind of made to feel like too stupid to figure it out. And I thought, wow, this isn't feeling good. And then the last advisor that I met with literally said, Anna, you don't have to understand this stuff. All you need to do is marry a rich guy and you'll be fine.
Oh my goodness.
I was like, what the heck? That is not a financial plan. And so it just started becoming clear to me that thing that I was looking for, at least in this area. I've met people that do this since then, but that almost 13 years ago, I was like, I think that I could do a better job of this. Like, I know I could be consultative. I know I could be compassionate. I really do care about people. And since I found this need in my life, I started realizing that a lot of other people needed this as well. And so it just made sense to become that person I was looking for, essentially. And I say, I turned that painful time in my life into my passion and helping other people navigate similar things.
Oh my goodness. Well, that is absolutely remarkable. I thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So today we were going to talk about, we had a couple topics that you were wanting to talk about, just given today's day and age and the economy and how things are just getting more expensive, whether it's gas or food. But I think one of the bigger things that people aren't thinking about is long term and what the cost of care is going to cost you, 10, 15, 20 years from now. It's already expensive. But I don't think people are really thinking and forecasting for the future. So did you want to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, it's true. I mean, I know, when I took care of my parents and my in-laws before their passing, it was expensive, $4, $5, $6,000 a month to be in a facility. And that is just exponentially growing. And so
That is correct.
yeah, and obviously it's not a fun topic. We don't necessarily always want to be thinking about that. But man, as I deal with clients now that are kind of in what I call the sandwich generation, like they're raising their children and then they have older parents, and yeah, you're there, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like it is a huge financial drain when you're trying to take care of your parents. You still have your family to raise and all these things that, unfortunately your parents didn't think about. And so the goal is to help people figure out what they can do now to potentially help themselves in the future. For some folks, we're a little late, but there might still be things, that we can do to help alleviate those stresses, because the caregiving part, the recognition that your parents are, potentially going downhill or needing more help, those things are stressful already.
Mm-hmm.
You add finances in that mix, it's just no fun. It gets to that overwhelming point.
Mm-hmm.
And so oftentimes what I realize is that we don't always know the tools that are out there. One of the things that has gone away in just general retirement planning, financial planning, are pensions. Like, I know
That's true.
my parents, my mom was a stay-at-home mom, but my dad had a pension. And those are great things. And they're not a part of everyone's plan anymore. And so it's hard to navigate, like, what are we going to be making in retirement? Maybe what your parents are currently have is not quite enough. It's not bridging the gap of everything that they need. There are some things out there that can help. And what I like about this particular thing, it's called an annuity. And when I mention annuities, oftentimes I'll get some really negative feedback, like, oh, I've heard of those, I hate those, they're not good. And what I always like to do is kind of dive into, what the person has heard about them, or have they had, a negative experience, because just like most things out there, there are bad forms of them for sure, but there are also some that are really good. And when we can implement something like that, annuities are great because they work a lot like a pension. It's that idea that you are going to get X amount of dollars every month for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
You can't outlive it. You can't lose money in these accounts, which oftentimes will take money from, some sort of another investment account. And so we're just moving that money over into this account so that, later on, they don't ever have to have the fear of running out of money. Because what if the stock market has another couple years of serious loss and you're starting to pull money from those accounts? Those accounts deplete really quickly. And so not all of it, but I always say, a portion of someone's money should be in something like an annuity that's going to be growing, having some consistent growth, but never having loss. That's the big thing. If you remove loss from the equation and you're never going to have any loss in that account, it really ups your confidence, and you know that you have income that you can count on. So for sure, we're going to have this amount of money coming in. That can make such a big difference. In fact, there's been some recent studies about just, the happiest retirees, and they've compared those that have a large sum of money and those that maybe had blue collar jobs and maybe didn't make as much money, but they had pensions and annuities in their portfolio. And it's interesting, hands down, it's the ones with the pensions and the annuities that are the happiest. And this is the reason. And it's interesting because you would think, well, yeah, having a large sum of money, that's a great thing. The only problem is that when you have a large sum of money, it's sitting in an account that could potentially have loss. You've got fees associated with that. And there's this thing about, okay, well, what if we have this type of an incident, or what if one of us gets sick? We need to save that money. So then when you can and you have energy and when you can enjoy things and still travel, some of these folks aren't doing that because they're trying to save for that future possible thing that maybe never even happens.
Mm-hmm.
But it keeps them from doing and enjoying and having fun right now while they have the health to do that. And so the difference is those folks that just know for sure, I'm going to get this amount of money no matter what happens. They know next month there's another check. So yeah, let's go on that cruise. Let's go on that trip because we have guaranteed money coming in. And so that is, a really huge thing that can be a big help. And for those, children that are taking care of parents, knowing exactly, okay, what are they going to be getting in income so that we can then make these adjustments and, potentially sell their home that you help them with, or figure out what's going to be the best process for them. The other thing you mentioned, long-term care. long-term care policies, and that's what most people are aware of, it can be very expensive. And many times, some people have been thoughtful of this and put it into place years ago, and so they can continue to pay for that. But by the time your parents are starting to get to that point, it's going to be way too expensive to be able to do that. And so there is an annuity out there, for example, that is just one of my favorite for this scenario, because you get the ability to have long-term care protection if you need it in the future, but it just runs initially like a regular annuity. You put money in it, you let that money grow, and when you start to need income from it, you can pull from it. Now, as long as that annuity has been in place for 5 years, let's say that at 5.5 years, one in the couple need long-term care, whatever the amount they were receiving on a monthly basis will double during that time frame. And so that's huge. If I'm getting, $2,000 a month, now I can get $4,000 a month. Like, that can make a huge difference. And so what I love about that is it's there if you need it, but you're not paying additional money to have that. And so that's what makes it nice. It's like, it's there, but I'm not having to pay for it. And what if I never need it? Then that's fine. It didn't affect the growth. It didn't affect what you were going to do. It didn't affect the income that you were receiving. But man, if you really needed it, it would be there for you. And so it's those type of things that can kind of give you a little bit of a sigh of relief in the midst of dealing with all of these things, knowing that when that time comes, we're going to have additional funds that we can use for. And it comes at no additional cost. It's just we're putting these things in place in case, what if we need it? And being mindful of that, thinking about that as early as possible in the process is so important, because we just don't know. But the numbers show that a large percentage of folks will need some form of long-term care later on, and people are living longer, and
Absolutely.
that's great. But with that comes the potential of needing something like that in the future.
So Anna, can you tell me, if somebody were to watch this and say, you know what, I'm gonna start my annuity, but I don't have a lot of money. What does it cost what are the minimums to start an annuity like you just spoke about? What are the monthly, contributions, the yearly contributions, and what does it cost yearly to maintain that?
Right. So the particular annuity that I'm talking about, you put in a lump sum of money into it. So, but you can start one for as little as $10,000. So it's not like you have to have huge amounts of money. Obviously, what you're going to be able to pull from that is going to be far greater the more you have to put in. But you can have some of that type of coverage without having, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Oftentimes, I do find, though, that because folks don't understand how all of this works, they'll have a lot of money just sitting in a savings account. And while I am definitely a proponent of having an emergency fund, and you don't want to have all of your money in these things, oftentimes they're not getting very much growth on that money, and they're also not getting the possibility of building these type of potential funds for their future. And so it's real important to know that you can put some money there and have that there just in case.
Okay. So if somebody were to say, reach out with you or to you and say, you know what, I don't have $10,000, but I get Starbucks every day, so I'm willing to give up my Starbucks every day for a year. What can I do with that?
So yeah, it really will depend, Monica, on the age of that person. There are definitely plans that we can put together, for the younger crowd. Obviously, a little bit over 60, it doesn't always make a lot of sense to build plans like with life insurance and some of these other things. But each person, as a case by case, there is generally something that we can do, and it doesn't have to start with large sums of money. And that's what I love with what I'm able to do, is I can meet with each person, evaluate their situation specifically, and then find something that we can do to help them.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right. Well, Anna, I wanted to thank you again for joining me this afternoon. I think it's absolutely valuable information, and it's things that people don't think about, specifically women. We don't think about health. We don't think about, again, the what ifs. I'm sure you never thought at 42 you were going to be a widow. I experienced some health issues with my husband, and at 43, I almost lost him. And so I don't think it's things that we think about. And I think it's important that we have these conversations, whether you are 43, whether you're 53, whether you're 23. It's important to have these discussions specifically about long term care and the plan. What is the plan? And as you said, the sandwich generations, we are definitely struggling with how to pay our own bills and take care of ourselves. But then the thought of having to take care of your parents and pay for care, it's it's astronomical, and it can be overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be with proper planning. So, Anna, if you
Exactly.
wouldn't mind sharing your contact information, if anybody would like to get a hold of you and have an appointment to do their own financial planning.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would recommend you can definitely reach out to me, text, call. That's 209-613-9445. I have a website. It's just my name, annafelix.com. There's also a calendar link. So I offer to meet with people for free. There is no cost to meet with me. I have a virtual business, so we can meet on Zoom and we can talk, answer your questions, all of those type of things. Obviously, my goal is always to make this easy to understand, easy to implement, and fun. Actually fun. I was at an event on Saturday and talking to some women, and they were like, this is fun, like putting this together. This feels good. And I think that's what we need more of, right? Like there's are not always initially conversations that people want to have, but once we get into the nitty gritty with it, it's like, you know what, this is good. This feels good. Like I feel like
It's
I'm
not so
I'm doing a
scary.
good thing. And so that's definitely what it's all about. So I believe in those contact ways. You can always find me on LinkedIn too, Anna Felix, Smart Money Strategist.
All right. Well, thank you again, Anna. I so appreciate you. I'm
Thank
Monica
you.
Herrera with Four Oaks Road, and we'll see you next time. Take care.